decided to come out on this, I think it's the 1st of December today. I've just come to a little place called Warmington, which is just over the Cambridgeshire border, I think, in Northampton. And we have a manor house there, which I believe is called Eaglethorpe House. It was built, I think, in 1607, according to that plaque over there. You can see it does look quite old. I believe that would put it just at the end of the Tudor period, coming into the start of the Stuart period of England. A lot of buildings around here are built with what was known as Barnack stone. I've decided to go for a little walk from here over to Fotheringhay. I'm using my handheld camera here. Might get a bit jerky and a bit wobbly. Oldish looking buildings there. I believe this is the Neen Way. The road you can hear there that we're going to go under is the A605. Horrible road. I'm going to take a little detour up here. If I can get through the brambles without and what we have here for some reason the gate appears to be locked and padlocked, although I don't know why it is, because it's got a, there should be a right of access through here, but that is the Dovecote there, and for some reason they've decided to lock the gate. I don't know if that's still locked because of the COVID thing. You can go in it. You have to get the key from the local shop. I probably could have gone in there and had a look around if the gate wasn't padlocked and bolted up. And there's nothing on here to say why it's locked. For those people who don't know, a Dovecote is a place where they kept doves and pigeons. They would keep them in there, they'd feed them, and then they'd lay their eggs, and then you'd get the young pigeons, etc., and the doves, and then they would use them for food. Similar to keeping rabbit warrens, etc., with a warrener. He would have a similar function. It was a ready supply of meat. Bronze Age burial. I believe there was a Bronze Age burial around here somewhere. Nice to see that all painted on that side and not graffitied. There is graffiti on this other side, but not on that side. This is the Neen Way. There is a mill here. I believe that way down there goes to Elton. It's a bit nippy. I should have put some gloves on maybe. Not sure how old this mill is. Neenway footpath to Fotheringhay. Doesn't look that old, to be honest. No more than a couple of 100 years, I should imagine. That would have certainly given some power to the wheel on the mill, if it was still there. I think that is the River Nene just on the left there. I'm a bit disappointed about the Dovecote being locked. I'm heading over to Fotheringhay now. Somebody did say that the castle at Fotheringhay was closed as well. I've no idea why, because it's outdoors. Strange bird calls over there. There's people who live on the River Nene over there. Fotheringhay Castle was a Motte and Bailey castle. It was the birthplace of Richard III, and it was also the site of execution of Mary Queen of Scots. Oh, that's very slippy and muddy. Mind you, this whole area here is prone to being flooded. That's probably why there's lots of little bridges around. There's not much wind, but it's a very crisp day today. Dog Walters not taking their rubbish away with them. Something else of interest in Fotheringhay is the church at Fotheringhay. I believe it was once known as the Fotheringhay Lighthouse. May have been because it was painted white and it could be seen from a distance. Some people also believe that in the church tower it may have had a beacon, which could have been lit and seen from a distance. I would recommend that you wear some sort of there's Fotheringhay Lighthouse over there, as it's known, on Fotheringhay Church. Now I would recommend that you wear some either decent shoes or boots if you don't really want to get them muddy. I mean, obviously it's in the mist over there, but I can see the church spire. Oh, not spire. I just said it was a tower, not a spire. Although the landscape in the medieval period may have been totally different to what we have here. I think that's a buzzard just over there. If this was like a hunting park, there would have been more small trees, I should imagine. We're still part of the fens here, so it probably would have been more waterlogged till the 1800s or something, I think it was, that the Dutch came over with their water management and drained the fens. Which would have made the land as it is today slightly less waterlogged. Although, like I say, all this area around here would have been... this does get flooded quite badly sometimes. Oh, we've got geese in the field there. I think a lot of people don't realise that they eat grass. I know they're seen abound rivers and such like. People like to feed them with bread. Shouldn't really feed them with bread. I mean, they can eat it, but what it does is it fills up their crop. And it's not very, what's the word? It doesn't have much in the way of nutrients or anything that they need, so that their crops just basically get filled up, so they stop eating other stuff. Doing a bit of dredging over there. Yeah, so they end up eating other stuff, and then they stop eating some of the good stuff. Got a lock here on the I wonder how that got there. Don't think it's part of anything, to be honest. Lock discharging floodwater. That's interesting. That's the tower at Fotheringhay Church just there. That's where I'm going to end up in a minute. Probably turn around and come all the way back again. As you can see, within a flat landscape, that would probably be stand out quite at a distance. Apart from the odd crow calling in the background and them geese, there's not a lot of wildlife around by the sound of it. A lot of them will be stocking up for the winter. Don't think we have many animals in the UK that hibernate. I think hedgehogs might. Dormice, although dormice are not an indigenous species. Indigenous meaning part of this country, not being introduced. Pheasants, peacocks in the wild. We have wallabies out in the wild. I think we have sika deer, Chinese water deer, muntjac deer. I don't think any of them are... Oh, rabbits as well. I think they were introduced by the Romans first, and then later on the Normans reintroduced them. The grey squirrel, mink. I think There's quite a few animals that have either come over on ships or whatever, or been introduced by somebody. I think the red deer, and it's either the fallow deer or the roe deer, I can't remember which one of them two, were in the country. I think the other one was introduced by the Normans, maybe, for hunting. I think there's now 6 species of deer in the UK, but only 2 of them were part of our infrastructure. I don't think that's the right word. I'm trying to think of the right word and I can't think of it. It's not that far to walk to here. If you're after a little historical walk, you could start there at the manor house, and then hello, a few more geese in that field there. Quite a few geese. Yeah, so if you go from Warmington, you've got the manor house, and then you've got the Dovecote there, if you can get in it and have a look around it. It's quite interesting inside. I have been in there before and taken some photos. And there is a Bronze Age excavation around here, but I don't think there's anything that you can actually see. I'm not sure about that. And then you can walk to the church here. You come to the castle first, or what remains of it. It's just the earthworks, a small tiny bit of masonry. But yeah, and then you can go from there. You can head over that way. I believe it's the road that goes to Nassington. You only have to go a small distance along there, and then there's another footpath that goes over there to a place called Elton. You can stop in Elton to the pub, or you can go to Elton Hall. Parts of Elton Hall aren't that old. I believe it may have been built in the Tudor period. It's got a Tudor gatehouse, so it has slight fortifications on it. And then you can walk back round underneath the bridge there, back to Eaglethorpe. I'm not going all that way today. I'm just going to walk down to where the church is. There are some interesting parts of the little village of Fotheringhay. Some of the stone from the castle, I believe, has been reused in the village. I think parts of it have been reused in other places around. Really is a pleasant day today. Hardly a sound now. There are some aircraft. An almost totally flat landscape. Places like this where we're going to, Fotheringhay, you can just see where they're just slightly higher in the landscape, which is the main reason why somebody would have built on this area, especially if this was all fenland covered in water, boggy marshes. So nice to breathe through my nose again. I had a really blocked nose a month ago. You can kind of see why somebody might have called the church the lighthouse, because it does stick out in the landscape. If you were walking along an ancient trackway somewhere, you were getting lost and you didn't know where you were going, it can be seen from several areas and spots. We're slightly lower here where you can just see it there poking out of the landscape. And you can see this sort of slightly ridged area that we're on now. If that area down there was waterlogged, you can see why people may have used this as a track. Stone there, look. There's no buildings around here, and there's stone there, look, being ploughed in the landscape. Well, as we go over the top of this rise, might be a reason why this stone found its way down here, because literally as we go over the top of this rise, if you were coming along here in the medieval period, you would have come to a gatehouse, and that would have been the gatehouse for the castle. My battery was fully charged, but it's halfway full now. We'll say half full rather than half empty. I think we'll be a half full person today rather than a half empty person. Despite the fact that my fingers holding the camera a little bit cold. We're quite some distance off the A605, which probably would have been a main route in the medieval period, heading from Peterborough to Northampton. There are a number of castles along the A605 to Northampton, or A605 and then A45. As you leave Peterborough, you've got Fotheringhay. A bit further along, you've got a stone castle. Just as we come over this rise, you can see the motte for the castle at Fotheringhay. But yes, you've got one of the few, I think it's one of only two stone castles still in existence in Northampton. Just trying to think. The one's at Rockingham near Corby, and the other one would be Barnwell. Most of the other ones are earthworks, I think. But there's the castle with the church in the background. This is a Motte and Bailey castle that used the extensive use of water, which was one of the primary defences of Motte and Bailey castles, which made them quite a successful idea for defence. Because in most cases the walls wouldn't necessarily be that defendable, even with a moat or a ditch around them, but with water defences that made them much easier to defend. Only this castle did, this was heavily constructed in stone. People think it was pulled down. You can see some stone on the ground here. People think it was pulled down on the orders of James I because his mother Mary, Queen of Scots, was executed here, but I don't believe that's the case. I think it had just gone into ruin anyway, and it was sold off rather than James I having it destroyed. His mother was originally buried in Peterborough Cathedral, but he did have her removed and taken to Westminster Abbey. Catherine of Aragon is one of the few people still in Peterborough Cathedral. But a lot of the stonework here would have been taken away and reused. You can see it in some of the buildings. Also, one of the staircases is believed to be in Oundle, in the Talbot Hotel, which I've gone and had a look at. Oundle's just over there. I think there are some fish ponds here and around. Fish ponds, for those people who don't know, are basically ponds that had fish in. I believe because they were Catholics, they couldn't eat meat on a was it a Friday? So they had to eat fish, something along them lines. Although if you look over there, that's quite a raised area there, looking onto the castle, which would have been a bit of a slightly easier way for people to look in. Overlook the castle. I believe one of the gatehouses to the castle was somewhere at this spot here. Although it's not part of the castle, because the Motte and Bailey, the castle, is there. But I think it extended out to here. There is a little map showing. One of my favourite smells, wood smoke. Must be coming from the, I think there's holiday lets just there. As you can see, that is quite a large motte from a Motte and Bailey castle. A Motte and Bailey castle is basically the motte, which is a large earth mound, and then the Bailey, which is a large enclosure. Sometimes they were kidney shaped, sometimes they were horseshoe shaped. The motte was a refuge basically. It would have a tower on top normally. I say normally because these things didn't always, they weren't always configured in the same manner. But sometimes you'd have the Lord living up there in the tower if it was big enough. Sometimes it would just be a simple watchtower. Most of the people that lived in a Motte and Bailey lived in the Outer Bailey. They would have stables, barracks, a hall, if that's where the Lord lived, with kitchens and butteries, maybe a small garden, herb garden, etc. there. All sorts of different things going on. But most of the people would live in the Outer Bailey. Oh, that's interesting. What's that in that tree there? Is that a buzzard? Oh, yeah, I think it is. Is it a red kite or a buzzard? Or is it a crow? Sounds like a crow. Oh no, the crow's over there. That might have been a buzzard, actually. But as you can see, that's the motts, that bit there, the large earth mound, and that's the Outer Bailey, which would have had the ditch. I believe this was a water-filled ditch because it came from the river. There's a camping site over there. When I go out looking for castles, I do quite often say to people, if you're looking for a castle, look for the church. Because normally, although it's not 100%, but normally you would find the church and the castle associated with each other. Oh, for some reason my camera just turned itself off there. No idea why. But yeah, I was saying that if you were in the bailey here and this castle was attacked, people could get in the outer bailey, and then all the soldiers and everybody and the people that lived here would all escape up there, and they'd sit up there. That would be much more defendable. Although today, I mean, I can walk up there in my boots, but somebody in the medieval period wearing leather-soled shoes with no heels or anything, they would struggle to get up there, especially with mail armour on, a shield, spear, sword, axe, whatever. They would struggle to get up there. You wouldn't need to stay up there for very long, hopefully, because, what I was saying before I went off on a tangent, the A605 goes up that road there. You've got Barnwell over there. There's a castle. If this place was attacked, you'd send people out there. Hopefully the people from that castle could form up and come over here. There's another castle over there. I think it's a reused Roman Anglo-Saxon site at Warmington, I think it is. Along the A605 again, there's another place at Tishmarsh. Thorpe Waterville, there's a place there before there was a place at Thrapston. If you continue along the A45, Higham Ferries, there was a castle. There was another castle, there is a Motte and Bailey at Earls Barton, and then of course you go into Northampton. There's a massive Motte and Bailey castle at Clifford, and then you've got the castle in Northampton itself. So the whole idea of Motte and Bailey castles were, it doesn't matter if they were that defendable themselves, but you would have castles in the area or the locale, or you'd have manorial sites or other places where you'd have Normans living, and if one castle got attacked, hopefully all the other castles in the area would gather up their troops and they'd come and rescue you. That's basically if you were getting attacked by a group of Anglo-Saxons. But I mean, that's probably, they were quite successful in that sense. I did come here a couple of Christmases ago and this was all flooded. You couldn't get round to this bit. But it is a memorial to the Mary Queen of Scots. I think somebody's put a thistle there. That is part of what the left for the castle there. And Richard III was born here. I think he's associated with Middleham Castle in Yorkshire, but he was actually born here at Fotheringhay. Richard III is the king that died at Bosworth. He was supposedly a hunchback. They have found, apparently they're the ones that they found in the car park in Leicester. And they did find a skeleton that was deformed, so he probably was a hunchback. He was accused of killing the princes in the Tower. The future Henry, no, not Henry, Edward V. He's accused. There's lots of people out there who say he is guilty. There's people out there who say he's not guilty. There's no direct evidence that he is or wasn't. It could have just as easily been Henry VII or Henry VII's mother or any number of other people. There's no evidence that it was Richard. It's just that the Tudors came into power, and then you got William Shakespeare, who was around in the Tudor period writing his plays, so he pretty much had to probably toe the line with the Tudors. So nobody actually knows who is responsible. There's one person walking along the path there with their dog. As you can see, this is a big motte. I have been here and filmed this before. You can see the castle keep there, as it's called. I think that's holiday lets. the castle barn. And there's the church there. Take a little walk into the village. Have a little look at the church. Yeah, there are quite a few castles all clumped along the A605 there. Not many further out as you go out, but most of them would have been there to either protect the road or travellers, or again to mutual defence. They've kind of taken that idea further into other periods. If you look at the Vietnam War, they used to have little fire bases that used to be mutually defendable from each other. They do the similar thing in Afghanistan and places like that. As you can see, that's the moat there. There probably wouldn't be like this little bridge, earth bridge here. It probably would have been a wooden bridge or a drawbridge that you could raise. I'm not sure what it shows on the photograph here. I mean, you can see here there is a separation between the motte and the outer bailey, although there is no separation today. Maybe that's been filled in, obviously. But you can see a drawbridge here. I mean, this is a representation, artist's representation, but you can see how the river goes by, and then you can see how they've used the water from the river. That probably would have been more sanitary as well, because as the river moves down, it would have, anything that went into the moat there would have been swept away, rather than left to fester. And you can see another artist's impression there. They've got a double gatehouse on that one, which would have been more defendable. And you can see the church in the background. You can also see another gatehouse down there, which would have been there. That gatehouse there, which is there, there would have been down. It would have been down here somewhere. It wouldn't have been part of the castle, but it would have been not so much for defence, but it would have probably been there for show. Although on this map you can see that there was another moat that went round the outside. And if you use the River Nene there, you would have created a, I mean, there's the castle and the keep, you would have created a much wider area. Although that would have been a lot more difficult to defend. You would have needed a lot more troops to defend a site that big. Probably the motte at the top there, you could have defended that with anything from 10 to 15 soldiers maybe. But if you're looking at the whole of the outer bailey, I'm going to walk down the grass bit. Yeah, the whole of the outer bailey, you would have had to have defended that with a lot more troops. Another member of each soldier every 5 feet or so, 5 to 10 feet maybe, with bows, crossbows, throwing spears, rocks, whatever. You'd have had a lot more soldiers or a lot more people, because not everybody in their castle would have been a soldier. There'd have been tradesmen and that. They would have had a certain amount of military training. You can see a slight bit of a ditch down there. That could have, I think that's part of the outer. That might just be a modern ditch, or it could have been just following along the old moat. You can see how they've just stepped the bottom of that wall out a little bit, so it comes out at a slight angle. You see that on a lot of castle walls. because it does provide a little bit more stability at the base, and it also helps a little bit with undermining when people try and dig underneath it. It also pushes people away from the walls, so if you're looking from above, somebody could hide on one of the walls and they could get quite near to the wall. It's very difficult to hit them with an arrow from above. But building something like that, it does push people out from the walls a little bit. And also, some people say you can drop stones from above and they'll hit that and then bounce outwards. As you can see, these buildings here, the stone looks quite old. Like that archway there, that could very easily have been part of the castle. And here's a plaque to Richard III. As you can see, a blocked up gateway there, that very easily could have come from the castle. Another one there. There's a row of old terrace cottages there, thatch roof. And there is a place near here called Barnack, which where a lot of this stone comes from. A lot of the buildings around here, new buildings, some of them, if they're in a certain area, they have to use Barnack stone, or at least the facing of Barnack stone. As you can see, all the buildings around here pretty much conform to the same thing, or the same way. And there we have the Fotheringhay lighthouse, and we also have a couple of sheeps. Hello, sheeps. I don't remember if it's 100% whether I can remember this correctly, but there is a yew tree in this garden here, in the graveyard I mean. That road there goes to Nassington, and there is a place called it's on that sign there, Prebendal Manor. I've been there, the time team did a dig there, and it was associated, I believe, with King Canute. Fotheringhay. As you can see, that is one massive church. Yeah, I was saying about the yew tree, it's supposed to be one of the oldest ones in the country. If I remember rightly, it might not be. Could be making it up. I'm pretty sure I read it somewhere. But let's take a spin around the church. I'm not going to film inside. But you can see that is sort of like a parish church, that is. If you'd class it as a parish church, I don't know, to be honest. That is one very big, one very impressive church. There's a gentleman there by the name of Lancelot. There's people from the same family. Yew trees were quite important for the making of longbows. Not 100% sure what a yew tree is, but I know they're quite small and sort of spread out a lot, so I'm not sure if that's a yew tree or not. Impressive looking gargoyle on the top. As you can see in the landscape, we are on a slight, you know, there's a bit of a hill here. There's the old bridge there and there's the castle in the background. So yeah, we are on a slight sort of rise here. Yeah, there's definitely a sort of a stepped area here that goes, definitely drops down there. A lot of buttresses on the outside here. There's some blocked up windows. Used to be something a few years back called the window tax. You can see it in a lot of old houses where they've had their windows blocked up, and that's because they used to have a tax on how many windows you had, so people had them blocked up so they didn't have to pay as much tax. I'm not sure it applied to churches though. Oundle's just over in that direction. Wouldn't mind wandering up into a place like that one day. I'm not a massive fan of churches, but I do like anything to do with the medieval. That's a very nice looking entranceway. Right, well, I might have a quick look around the church. I'm not going to film in there. I don't think they'd mind, but I'm not going to bother. There's that gargoyle I saw up there. Can I see it from here? No. Right, and then I'm going to take a walk back. I'm not going to bother filming. There's a nice rampant lion almost by the look of it. Well, that's the night if you live in the area and you want a little walk out, a little bit with lots of little bits of history. Yeah, you can walk from Eaglethorpe over there, walk down that road. Just there's two bridges down there. You can go over, I think you go over both of them, and then there's a footpath to the right. Follow that, you can end up at Elton. Wander around Elton Hall, or the gardens anyway. I think you have to book Elton Hall. Have a little wander about, stop in the village of Elton, and then walk back. That'll take you a few hours, but it's well worth a little walk around here. And I hope you enjoyed it.